by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like a lot of the time, a lot of horror movies focus on how they can shock the audience or how gory they can make a scene, rather than creating something that is truly terrifying. Like, it makes me squirm, and when done right, it makes me start crying in the corner like a little bitch even. But usually it doesn't leave a lasting impact on me. True terror, I'm talking about the type of terror that disturbs you and leaves you with that lingering dread. That type of terror is rare to come by. At least with me personally. It takes a fair bit to faze me, but I've collected some scenes that have left a memorable, lasting impact on me. So I'm just going to be yapping about them if that's all okay with you guys. Nope is a movie which is basically about Logan Paul.
I think there's someone hanging.
Horses. Monkeys. And to top it all off, an alien that wants to destroy and devour anything that gazes at its presence.
Behold! I am Orgalorg!
It's about how some of us in this current media culture thrive off of grasping the best look at any new tragedy and putting it off as entertainment.
Put in a cage. I read about did you say want to a 10-year-old?
Was that like Oprah?
Yeah, like Oprah, for example. Undeniable, singular, the Oprah shot.
Get a picture of you. You're aware of that, right?
I did hear that.
How dare you?
But the bottom line is very clear.
Whether directly or indirectly, it is something that is present almost everywhere. But sometimes, in pursuing tragedy, it can backfire and end up fucking eating you.
I think there's someone hanging right there.
I've made a severe and
And that's exactly what happens.
My camera! I need my camera!
Jean Jacket is the embodiment of these terrifying, tragic things that everyone loves to point and gawk at, whether intentionally or not. But to me, it's really this scene at the ranch which left an impact on me as one of the more disturbing and terrifying scenes that I have seen so far in any film this decade. Usually, when you think of aliens, you think of the little grey men with massive heads that are bold, and a flying saucer-shaped aircraft that does stuff like this. But in Nope, what I find most interesting about it is that the UFO is not the vehicle, but is the actual alien itself, which I thought was a really creative move. There are no bold, stupid aliens piloting this flying saucer to abduct people to experiment on them, but it abducts people to devour them. Brutally. Slowly. I think that there are two key elements to this specific scene which make it so vividly disturbing to me. The first thing is this one continuous shot showing all of these innocent people trapped in the throat of Jean Jacket. Then at the end, we see the decoy horse which is blocking them from actually being swallowed. So they are basically just stuck there, suffering in this claustrophobic nightmare. The second element is the sound design. When they all get sucked up, their screams and cries for help are so visceral and audibly detectable. And they're just stuck there, still screaming. It's just, oh man, it's so fucked up.
Get it done!
Nope is a fresh new take on the UFO alien mythos, and I really like it, but let's look at a more traditional approach.
Yes!
Fire in the Sky is based off of a real story. Apparently. Allegedly. I don't know. But this one scene from Fire in the Sky is basically what happens to that one friend that is the first to fall asleep at the sleepover. Aliens are not real, but they are. But they aren't. But if they were, which they aren't, which they are, hypothetically, these are the aliens that you would absolutely not want to encounter, like, ever. But from actually breaking down the scene itself to find out why it's so disturbing, I have concluded that the best thing that the filmmakers captured was how nothing feels familiar. We so effectively feel what Travis is going through. It's like body horror dialed all the way up to 11, as he just loses any control over what they do to his body, and there is not a single drop of blood in sight, except for this guy's guts. The aliens have tools that you just have no idea what purpose they serve, what the goal is. It's just torture. In Nope, the alien wants to eat you. In Fire in the Sky, I have no idea what they want with him. They put this sheet over him, then mystify the place to make this sheet thing stick, put it over his head, cut the iron mouth sockets open, stick this fucking thing in his ear. But he's still screaming, so they fucking slap chocolate sauce over his mouth and stick this thing down his throat. Then slowly drill into his eye. A lot of effort was put into crafting the environment. Everything in this scene is a practical effect, down to the aliens themselves, and they just straight up look real, which I can always appreciate because it always makes it much more immersive. What's really unique about it is that it does truly look alien. Nothing here looks familiar. These aliens look like domestic terrorists. The ship is rusty and dirty and looks like a shithole. When they drag him through the hallway, there was so much trash and dust and a lot of human clothes and stuff, like these glasses floating about, and kids' shoes, which makes what comes after truly horrific in comparison. So basically, these are the two horsemen of the scariest movie, Aliens. Aliens aren't real. Except they are, but they're not, allegedly. But you want to know what is real? Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh my god, he has a gun.
Don't move! I want your money and your car keys. Okay.
Zodiac is a masterclass in crafting actually terrifying and gut-wrenching scenes in the backdrop of what is a pretty light-hearted movie, actually. Other than the fact that it's about a real-life serial killer that taunted San Francisco and was never caught.
I'm not the Zodiac. And if I was, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
It's practically about a cartoonist that makes some buddies while trying to solve some murders. Like, this could be a comedy.
Does it ever bother you that people call you Shorty?
Does it bother you that people call you a retard?
Nobody calls me that.
Right.
You mean like retard?
Yeah.
No.
But from what I can observe, Fincher and his crew really made sure that they could portray the murders themselves as accurately as possible. For instance, the dress that Darlene, the first true victim of the Zodiac that is shown in the movie, wears is a one-to-one replica of the exact same dress that the real-life Darlene actually wore. Her date,
Fuck off and die!
who later went on to survive, wore like 3 different layers of clothes, but it was on the 4th of July, which is summer in America.
It's July. How many shirts are you wearing?
So what's that about?
Man, you really creeped us out.
So when you see something like this, you know that what you are seeing is exactly what happened.
So there was actually a Zodiac murder that we don't show in the film, the first one. And it was because both the boy and the girl died. And so we don't really know exactly what happened there.
The fact that this is an extremely accurate recreation of what really happened makes it all the more terrifying. It makes what is an already true story all the more true and also disturbingly sad, where it almost feels perverted to watch. Something I've noticed with Fincher is that where other directors use the classic leave it up to your imagination,
the unseen is always more frightening than what you throw in the audience's face.
Fincher actually says,
I think people are perverts. I've maintained that. That's the foundation of my career.
And perhaps his best example of his philosophy is with the Lake Berryessa scene in Zodiac. The camera feels extremely intimate and uncomfortable here. Can you just imagine that you're with someone you care about having a picnic and it's so peaceful and calm?
Here last spring, remember?
Oh yeah.
Then a guy dressed in all black with a symbol on his chest
Don't move!
just strolls up and brutally kills you and your partner, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. It's just so sad, and it's the acting here which even further sells it. It makes me feel sick every time. But you want to know what else makes me feel sick? Gambling. And short Italian men who hate the MCU for some reason.
But this time, when I heard him say a couple of 100 yards down the road, I gave myself 50-50.
Casino has got to be my all-time favourite Scorsese flick, which is what I say whenever I rewatch any of his movies. Sometimes it's Wolf of Wall Street, other times it's Raging Bull, sometimes it's King of Comedy, but right now, for me, my favourite is Casino.
I see you, you motherfuckers.
But it's this one moment from the ending that just takes you by complete surprise.
What's right is right. They don't give a fuck about...
Which is saying a lot. Scorsese is known for how he can capture violence and by its influence evil in his films. Much of his filmography is dedicated to it in one way or another, but by far Casino is his most brutal out of all his movies, and it's this scene that cements that. Like Zodiac, Casino is based on a real life story, and like any other Scorsese flick, the first half is this super fast paced rise to power story, and then the midpoint hits, and then things rapidly decline from there. It's about corruption and control, trust and betrayal.
And the eye in the sky is watching us all.
And among all of that is Sam Ace Rothstein, a former gambler who was put in charge of running the casino with his friend Nicky Santoro, a ruthless mob enforcer whose lust for power eventually brings about their downfall. But Nicky is the real enigma of the film in my opinion, and he's the most interesting character, second to Ginger of course. Throughout the entire film, you're just waiting for Nicky to get where he deserves, but you think it's gonna go down just like in Goodfellas. But when his time comes, you can't help but feel sorry for the guy. No matter how much blood and gore, nothing will ever be as terrifying as listening to Nicky's last breaths be that of concern, begging for these Jay Leno-looking motherfuckers to stop beating the ever-living shit out of his younger brother.
Frank, leave the kid alone. He's still breathing.
Still breathing, leave him alone.
While still alive but crippled, he's buried in a random unmarked spot in some random cornfield.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
But you want to know what else is fucked up though? Jake Gyllenhaal.
This fella sitting behind the steering wheel, my friend Tony, you remember him?
Nocturnal Animals is a movie that when you first start it and sit down to watch it, almost immediately you go, what the fuck am I watching? But if you manage to get through the opening credits, what lies ahead is a surprisingly extremely intense and layered movie. And what follows just after the start of the movie is by far the most disturbing and unsettling scene I think I've ever watched in any film.
Some kind of crazy game.
My first two scenes I talked about were aliens. The next two were about specific rare cases of real-life murder, all of which show pretty insane levels of violence in one way or another, but this one scene from Nocturnal Animals stands out from the rest.
Dude, you gotta let your wife and your child and the car?
Right.
Get your women out the car.
All of these other scenes that I mentioned before are pretty short, around 5 minutes or so. Some of them a little less, some of them a little more. But part of what makes this scene feel so goddamn real.
It's okay. Don't get out the car.
I'm not getting out of the car, sweetheart.
Is that the whole thing goes on for about 15 to 20 minutes. It really draws out and plays on your unease, your discomfort, as the situation keeps escalating as their true intentions are slowly revealed.
She's just a kid.
Daddy won't tell me, so why don't you?
And this is a type of situation that is both not that uncommon and not that unlikely that you, whoever you are watching this stupid ass video, could very well find yourself in this situation if both you are not careful but also by sheer bad luck. We love to think that in a situation like this, we think that we will think 100% clearly, that we can take on a group of thugs and fight them all by hand and come out unscathed like we are Batman or some shit. But in the real world, the regular schmuck like you and me has zero chance, and it's so devastating to be hit by that reality while watching this scene. No matter how much you try and fight back, your fate is pretty much sealed the minute you find yourself adjacent with people like this. This scene is about a father who has to ruthlessly watch his wife and daughter be taken away from him, and there was not a damn thing he could do to stop it.
Hey, you like it like that, huh?
No.
Hey, wait! What are you doing?
Stop! Get off! Please!
Get your hands off her!
Bye-bye, sweetheart.